Greetings and salutations, fine people. I'm Patti Alvarez. Welcome to The Good Soul, a show where we'll have supercharged chats with everyday humans from all walks of life and unpack what in their story will inspire us all. We'll extract the untapped wisdom, distill it, and serve it up to you in all the right ways that will engage, enlighten, and most of all, inspire growth within your soul. I think people are awesome. So join me on this journey through the hearts and minds of ordinary people to uncover the good soul within you. This is The Good Soul. Hello, universe. Welcome to The Good Soul. We are on episode 38, and this episode is titled Leadership Simplified. I hope you like the term cousin-in-law, because I just invented it while we were sitting here. This is my wonderful and amazing cousin-in-law, Mr. Doug Van Dyke.
Greetings.
Welcome to the show. It's so good to have you. Yeah.
Great to be here.
So the name of our episode is Leadership Simplified, and I am literally going to turn this right over to Doug. First, what we'll do first is explain a little bit about the company, about the what you do, and from there let's talk about your past and what brought you to this place. And then we have so much good information to share with all of you guys. So let's get started with Leadership Simplified.
Okay, so where we are now, to answer your question that way, we're in our 27th year, so beating the odds every day.
Yes, for sure.
That's right. So we're in our 27th year, and it's just it's been fantastic. And so we offer executive coaching, leadership development programs. I'm a certified speaking professional, so I deliver keynotes. We do some team building and a lot of strategic planning. That's really what I've been doing this past week. A lot of strategic planning, facilitations, things like that. And then sometimes collaboration initiatives when organizations need to get it back together. But about 40% of what we do is executive coaching, one-on-one executives, really lifelong learners who are cool people.
Sure.
Our clients range from Amazon and American Express and Union Pacific Railroad, and so a variety of different Fortune 500 companies to mom and pops.
Right.
So we have a variety of different geographies we work within.
Okay.
Numerically, most of our clients are Florida-based, but we have clients on the other coast of the U.S., Northeast. I'll be speaking at a conference, one in South Carolina in a couple weeks, one in Philadelphia in a couple months. So I'm all over the place geographically.
Okay.
Later, we might talk about business models and get into that deeper, but that's by design. And again, just have a great time working with people who are interested in learning and growing, and I always learn and grow in the process as well as our whole team does.
Sure. Well, think about I'm imagining what percentage, and you probably know these statistics, and if you don't, we could probably guess how much time we spend at work. How much energy and bandwidth we put into our professional personas, and what kind of impact that has not only on our personal life, right, our relationships at home, but also the world at large, right? Yeah. So one of the quotes that comes to mind, I read this I actually heard you say it on a YouTube video, is that leadership impacts culture. Right. So you said what we do, what we say, how we act, and leading by example. It was beautifully put. And right there, I was like, I cannot wait to have him on the show to go over this. So without getting too much into that, because already about 18 questions popped into my mind as you were talking.
Sure.
Let's talk a little bit about what brought you to this place, because what a remarkable career. How did you get here?
Yeah. So I started out, I can go through education a little bit.
Yeah.
When we get,
where you grew up, too. I'd love for them to know.
I'll get into that a little bit, whatever.
Okay.
Yeah, educationally, so I have a BBA in finance from Stetson University. Go Hatters.
Go Hatters.
The University of North Florida is where I have my MBA. So that's in Jacksonville, University of North Florida. I did some PhD work at Barry University. Okay. But I started out in the corporate world. And I spent 14 years in the corporate world and loved it. Just great experience. I worked for some fantastic bosses that I learned so much. Mm-hmm. And
what positions basically in the corporate world?
So, you start out as a grunt. You're ready for
Coffee
middle
boy?
management,
No, I'm
but
kidding.
you start out, I did financial analysis and, different things of that nature. Got into management leadership positions, so vice president and then senior VP and et cetera, et cetera. Had an opportunity to start market areas. Yeah. So I was kind of thrown to the wolves, make this work, start this market area. Yeah. Hired a team, was very, very fortunate to be surrounded by outstanding people. So we did just a great job with that. It was really terrific.
So excuse me one second, these leadership roles kind of primed you, or was this kind of the part of those positions that you were kind of turned on to? Mm-hmm. More, I guess, I don't want to say human resources management, but leadership, really training good leaders, I guess, would be.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And again, I worked for some fantastic leaders that I would seek to learn and emulate with my own authenticity. Right. Then there would be other leaders. I did work for some leaders who were not so great.
You learned what not to do.
I think I learned just as much. And honestly, I had a chance to make every mistake in the book. I probably made every leadership mistake there is out there, from the way interviews are conducted to the way you handle, problematic situations, whatever it might be. So
or troubleshooting.
I have baptism by fire. I've learned that way. Yes. But growing up, my dad was an entrepreneur. He owned his own business, and that really is what led me more towards the Leadership Simplified route. We'll get to that. Mm-hmm. My mom, very, very strong and would instill leadership in me and reinforce that, you're leading with this or leading that. So it's not that I was pushed in any particular directions. It's just that it always was of interest, fascinating, always enjoyed those positions. Mm-hmm. And again, when you have a team that can really execute, it just makes it, a beautiful thing. So enjoyed the 14 years in the corporate world and just had a great time. Again, my father was an entrepreneur, so he always had this entrepreneurial spirit. So I always kind of felt like it was Doug's region or Doug's group or, whatever it might be. And I was at a point in my life where I hadn't gotten married yet, didn't have kids yet. I'd saved up some pennies. Again, always felt very entrepreneurial. And I was just like, well, if I'm ever going to start my own business, this is the time.
Okay. And
so I felt that medium and small businesses were underserved consultatively. I think they still are. And so that was my initial niche. Mm-hmm. And so when I started the company, which was in 1997, it was to serve medium and small businesses and to help them with business plans, to help with strategic planning, and to help with really consulting. It wasn't even called coaching. That term didn't exist. So it was consulting, strategic planning, business plans, and that really was the initial focus.
So the initial focus was those three things. So consulting, business plans, and what was the third?
So coaching.
Just general coaching. Mm-hmm. So it all kind of, so would you come to somebody or would they come to you from like ground level, like I want to start this company, or would they come to you in distress? Like what was your objective at that point when you were starting?
Yeah, so at that point, sometimes it was startups, but usually it was really sometimes very well-running or very well-established businesses that were looking to take it to the next level. Right. Sometimes I would get those, hey, we have these problems or issues going on. Mm-hmm. That's just part of business in general. But a lot of times it would be well-running, growing concerns, and they wanted to instill some new ideas, have a sounding board. They wanted to strategize on things. They wanted to grow their people, whatever it might be. There's only so much collective bandwidth with those type of situations.
Okay. Okay. This is a great moment to hit pause because this segment is getting wrapped up. But I don't know about you, but I say this repeatedly about Doug. Somehow, with every conversation, I walk away feeling just a little bit smarter. So, I've learned like 3 words in that 9-minute segment already, and I can't wait for the next 3 segments. Neither should you. So, guys, don't go away. We'll be back in just a few on The Good Soul. This segment of The Good Soul is brought to you by Aaron Fisnick, certified luxury home specialist with Ivester Jackson Christie's International Real Estate. Aaron serves all levels of the greater Lake Norman region real estate market, and whether buying or selling, she is very much the lady who will deliver like no other. Many of us at Good Soul are also really happy clients. Aaron can be reached at 704-728-5657 or reach out to me and I'll get you guys connected. Thank you, Aaron Fisnick, and thank you guys for tuning in and supporting The Good Soul. Welcome back, everybody, to The Good Soul. We're on episode 38 with the wonderful and amazing Doug Van Dyke. Do you go by Douglas in your professional career? Or
Doug.
Doug. I love it. Yeah, short and sweet. Keep it simple. Leadership Simplified is our topic. In our first segment, we got into a little bit of the how and the why. Doug landed here. And I think this is probably a really important question, Doug, is what does leadership mean to you? Like, how did this?
So I define leadership 3 simple words: leaders impact culture. And you referenced that earlier.
Oh, okay.
Like what you pulled out, so it was great. So that's my definition. One of my favorite definitions of leadership is by Colin Powell. And he put it this way. He said, leadership is the art of accomplishing more than the science of management says is possible. So when you think about management, that's the mechanics of getting things done, right?
Can you say that again, Doug?
Yeah. So
I'm going to close my eyes.
Again, this is a quote by Colin Powell. And he put it this way. He said that leadership is the art of accomplishing more than the science of management says is possible.
How does that translate to
If you think of management as the mechanics of getting things done, I mean, that is that clearly we need to get things done. So that's management. But there's a broader umbrella with leadership. So it's a broader umbrella. With leadership, we're creating followership, right? A leader without followers, well, that's just a walk in the desert. So we're looking at creating followership. And what that means is it's the leading by example, the management by one around. How do you act? How do you speak when nobody is around? So it's just a broader umbrella. It's being intentional about the different styles that you wield as a leader. Daniel Goleman's done some great work on leadership styles. 6 different leadership styles, and we want to be intentional about those styles. And each one of the styles has a positive or sometimes a negative impact on morale, the morale of the workplace. He would call it climate. Daniel Goleman, as an aside, his definition of leadership, and I'm kind of paraphrasing here, but his definition is the leader's singular job is to deliver results. So we want to impact culture. We have to deliver results, but leadership it truly is an art.
Yes.
And so it's a craft, and I love talks like this because we're both leaders, and it gives us an opportunity to kind of practice our craft and to be reflective and to think about how we want to be influential or impactful, how we impact the different cultures on the universes we connect with.
Of Daniel Goleman, of his 6 styles, do you adhere to a certain style within your organization?
Well, it's a savvy question. And leaders, we tend to gravitate towards our personality. So in other words, if somebody is just nurture, that tends to be the style that they first exhibit. And they do that all the time. They're nurturing all the time. Well, I mean, that's great if you have a high-performing team. But every once in a while, I mean, people don't play nice in the sandbox, or you have poor performance. And what tends to happen with that particular style, that nurturing style, Goleman would call it the affiliative, is, they're non-confrontational. And so what happens is you have this impediment that if they would deal in a more proactive manner, it really wouldn't impact negatively the broader group. However, because they're non-confrontational, they're slow to it. That impediment really builds into something that negatively impacts that team or clients, customers, patients, whatever it is. And so that style as just an always go-to style, it's not optimal.
Right.
And so what our job is to be as comfortable in our skin while still being authentic, with sometimes more hard-charging styles, sometimes more visionary styles, etc.
Right. I'm assuming you find a lot of this to be getting almost like very personal with people, like whether somebody is a curmudgeon or they're passive aggressive, or, you know, as I always say, like maybe mama didn't give them enough love or whatever it is. It really does come out in the workplace. And I'm assuming for you, it's almost like trying to wrestle with an octopus, like an angry octopus, like you're handling all these different personalities and ways of kind of troubleshooting this problem. It's got to be challenging for you to walk into a place like Amazon or, you know, a Good Soul Hot Yoga type place and kind of figure out the personalities. It reminds me of my friend who's a wedding photographer, and he always says he knows like within 5 minutes of shooting the wedding if their marriage is going to last or not.
Oh my gosh, wow.
Yeah, like you can just tell, like, you know, he'll tell me stories like, you wouldn't believe this was back in the day. But same thing. I mean, it's probably really fun for you to analyze from your perspective too. Well,
and your friend is, you know, they have their experience. They probably have just mentally connected the dots on different patterns that they notice, and they know what the ultimate marriage outcomes are and things like that. And so I think we all do that a little bit in our professions. Mm-hmm. And then also, you know, if you listen, you know, you mentioned some different where people might be in their particular space, whether they're having a bad time, whether they're accelerating, whatever it is. You know, it's listening and attempting to figure out, you know, what are they looking to achieve? You know, what are the results? What are you looking to achieve? And then, you know, from that, sometimes working didactically, our audience might know it as reverse engineering, but it's didactic thinking, just a different type of thinking. We're trying to work backwards.
Can you say, let's word of the segment, didactically? Can you define didactically for me, please?
So
brilliant one.
It's so funny. I have a client, one of our manufacturing clients. Their training room is called the didactic room. And
it's a great word.
I love it. Every time I go there, I'm just like, I love and they're just like, we don't know. It's the weirdest name we've ever seen. Well, there is a type of thinking. It's known as didactic thinking. And Stephen Covey would put it as begin with the end in mind. But that's a type of didactic thinking where you visualize the results, or you visualize the finished product, whatever it might be, and then you work backwards, in the process creating milestones that allow you to then find not only your starting point, but then the most efficient way to the end result. Okay. We're wired for sequence. So what happens when we start at the beginning and we're heading towards an end, even if we have a vision of what that is, we're going to get this wavy line of all these different permutations and combinations.
Right.
So thinking didactically sometimes can cut through the kudzu, which I can say because we're in North Carolina as we're recording this space. Lots of kudzu.
What's kudzu?
We can cut through. You're from New Jersey. We can cut through the kudzu. You know what kudzu is?
I don't.
Oh my gosh!
Is it the BS?
It's a plant. It's a
vine.
It's a vine.
Okay.
And it's not indigenous to North Carolina.
Okay.
We're totally hijacking this. This
That's
segment's going to pivot now.
This one makes it fun. Kudzu, everyone. Now you know.
We're talking about vegetation. But anyway, didactic thinking allows us to cut through the kudzu.
Okay.
And to find perhaps a more efficient way that we can go ahead and start at the best starting point, and then efficiently head towards what's going to deliver an optimal result.
Do you feel like that is one of the most efficient approaches, to start with the end in mind?
So, well, I mean, Covey certainly made a few bucks talking about that.
Okay.
And it's in 7 Habits, etc. But again, didactic thinking, I mean, it's been around forever. Mm-hmm. And
it's like writing your own obituary, sort of? Like writing your own obituary? Have you heard that method?
I think that can be a cathartic exercise. If it's done, I think if it's done with a positive intent, I think that can be a really cathartic exercise to go through.
Yeah.
So I would, we're on Covey. In 7 Habits, he would talk about writing your own personal mission statement.
Right.
So that might be a different way to go about it or whatever. But all those things, anything that allows for some self-reflection, I think is really cathartic and ends up opening up our thinking to different possibilities and things we may want to do.
I have an old thing I used to say to the girls when they would have a fight with a boyfriend or they would break up with their boyfriend or they were in trouble. And I would say, I called it the barstool theory. And this was before the barstool guy got famous. I want you to picture your spouse or your boyfriend describing you to his friend sitting at the bar over a beer. What would he say? What would you like for him to say? Be that person. Now listen, some people may find that to be shallow and, don't hinge your self-worth on what your man thinks of you. But I think when you're in a healthy, strong relationship, it's a great way to hold yourself accountable. I see a similarity in there. So we were going to go over the 6 verticals, but let's start on the 6 verticals of Leadership Simplified, which is basically like le menu, I would say, sort of the services you offer.
Service lines, product lines, whatever. I'm just going to mention them quickly because I'm not here to give a commercial and then you can talk about, you can ask questions about whatever area you want. So executive coaching, leadership development, anywhere from a one-day program to a year-long program that's monthly or bi-weekly or whatever. Facilitations and strategic planning, team building, sometimes the collaboration initiatives when there's some infighting or conflict management, and then keynotes. I'm a certified speaking professional, so I deliver keynotes on leadership and specific topics all over the country.
Okay. Keynote is one of the most exciting to me.
Super fun.
Yeah, that's like the glamorous one to me. So if somebody like Amazon were to come to you or let's say, what was the other one you had mentioned?
So I'll be speaking at a conference in 2 weeks, and it's a CPA conference.
Okay.
So it's a state regional conference, and there will be hundreds of professionals there, and I'll be delivering 2 keynotes to them. One is going to be on effectively leading different generations in the workplace. And then another is going to be on time management and professional efficiency. Okay.
I'm going to leave you guys with a cliffhanger because I have a question about this whole keynote thing. So guys, don't go away. We'll be back in just a few on The Good Soul. Thanks for being here. This segment of The Good Soul is brought to you by Aaron Fisnick, certified luxury home specialist with Ivester Jackson, Christie's International Real Estate. Aaron serves all levels of the greater Lake Norman area real estate market, and whether buying or selling, she is very much someone I want in my corner. Aaron prioritizes building strong client relationships based on trust and authenticity. Manny and I should know, having purchased our land through her. She can be reached at 704-728-5657 or reach out to me and I'll get you guys connected. Thank you, Aaron Fisnick, and thank you guys for tuning in and supporting The Good Soul. Oh, how we love that. Welcome back, everybody, to The Good Soul. We're on episode 38, titled Leadership Simplified. I'm with my dear cousin-in-law, friend. I could think of a million things to call you, Mr. Doug Van Dyke. Doug, what is it? President, CEO, Leadership Simplified?
Founder and CEO.
Founder and CEO. Perfect. So we left off on our last segment talking about the 6 verticals that are offered by Leadership Simplified. And probably the one that got me the most giddy was keynote speaker. And also because I think that's something I would love to do. I would love for somebody, every once in a while, a church group or somebody will say, we want you to come talk to our teenagers. Yeah. I have no training. I go in pretty darn nervous. So we should probably talk more about how I could benefit from what you do, because I feel like I do have a lot of questions. But in the meantime, one of the biggest questions I have is when these companies come to you to keynote, do they give you specific topics that they want you to touch on, or do you kind of research them and come up with them yourself?
The short answer is sometimes. So sometimes there will be a specific topic. So I have one client, they have a conference and they want me to speak on executive presence. They're like, that's the topic. And I'm like, would love that opportunity. We'll talk about timeframes. And then, get into the logistics of how many people and where and whatnot and things like that. Sometimes there will be conferences that would like me to speak, and they're like, well, what would you like to speak on? And I'm like, well, here's a menu. And typically that's what I'll offer, is a menu for them to choose from with regard to topics. And then they'll look through, and there might be several topics that intrigue them, and then we'll go deeper. And then I want to learn a little bit more about the flavor. Sometimes it's speaking to a group, so I might be the keynoter. So in October, I delivered a keynote, and they wanted it on leading innovation. And so I customized a keynote for them on leading innovation, and then delivered that to their group. There will be almost a half-day program that I'll be delivering again in a couple weeks for a client, and part of it is going to be leading innovation, but then we're going to be talking more about the sales aspects of things. So they're coming together globally, and I'll be delivering a keynote / 3-hour workshop for them.
Okay.
So it depends. Sometimes I have a little more leverage or freedom, but ultimately I want to find out what they're looking to achieve. What do they want to imprint on the audience, and what do they want the audience to walk away with? Because that's what's important, right? The audience, they're going to enjoy the experience and things like that, but what are they going to do with it afterwards? Because time is so precious. What's that return on the investment of time that they're putting into that going to be? So if it's a conference, I want to know the mix of the conference to make sure it's going to be a good fit. If it's an individual group, that's awesome. I can deliver a variety of different topics on that. So anyway, that's.
Do they let you know the personalities and maybe some things that you really need to focus on for key players in the company? Or when you come in, not just with keynoting, because that sounded like a little bit of a blend, what you just said. You're going to do keynote, but then following the keynote speech, you're going to do a workshop, which is really cool.
Yeah.
But if you're going in and doing a workshop with, say, a couple dozen people, let's say, for example, or 400 people, like here is our biggest challenge, this person, do they get into the details?
Yeah, that's so you'll be just fine as a speaker. You naturally know what questions to ask. So yeah, and oftentimes that's volunteered. So say it's a smaller group where it's less than 20 people or whatever. Understanding the dynamics of the people or any just positive accelerations that are taking place, et cetera, very, very helpful. When it's 400, it's more the group dynamic, and where is that group of 400 people going? Right. But that's just really part of understanding the event and the situation where you're going to be speaking.
Okay.
What are things to know? And then depending upon the size of the group, I'll also request, physically how we're going to be set up. So, for example, if I'm going to have less than 25 people, it's nice to have a you if we're working together in a workshop, or even if I'm speaking to that group in some fashion, because it just gives me access to everyone there. I don't stand behind a podium. I'm behind a microphone now, but if there's a podium, I'm not going to be standing behind it.
Sure.
I'm going to be I'm going to be with the audience. Yes. Right? The audience and the speaker are one. It's a shared experience.
Yes. Yes.
And so I'm going to be with the people. And so if we have 400 people, there might be different configurations or different aisles that I'd like or whatever, so that I'm, I want a wireless lapel mic, battery pack, mobile, so that I can go into the audience more and move and connect with them and include everybody.
Well, it becomes organic. You get really kind of, this is kind of a sidebar, but did you ever consider working with politicians or like leaders, like government type situations?
So
future senators, yeah.
So I have, I'm sure over the years that I've worked with different people that, are in politics or have political aspirations or whatever. But, oftentimes that political and governmental space, I have a lot of governmental clients, but I'm working more in operational segments of that.
Not public policy.
It's not public policy, et cetera. So normally when it comes to, politicians and, governments and state regional governments, there is more a set segment or enclave that's going to be going deep on that. And I stay in my lane.
You stay in your lane.
It's just like earlier when you were talking about some of the different, almost, therapy type things or whatever.
Yeah.
I stay in my lane as an executive coach. Yeah. And there have been a number of leaders where they're working with a therapist at the same time that they're working with me as an executive coach. And sometimes that therapy, it's not that there's anything even challenging going on. It's just that's what they do for their, mental health.
Cleansing, processing.
That's right.
Sure.
So sometimes there are issues, sometimes not, whatever. But, my job is to stay in my lane from, I'll say a business standpoint. And that covers governmental, not-for-profit, for-profit.
Okay. And kind of along the same is so you don't get involved with any of the economics, like if there's sales goals involved, if it's a sale,
absolutely get involved.
You do.
Nothing happens till somebody sells something.
Okay.
So
they're saying I want these people to meet these sales goals and that sort of thing.
That can be, in fact, the keynote that then is part of a 3-hour workshop. I mean, that's absolutely the deep dive will go on.
Okay.
Yeah, there's 25 people from around the globe, and we'll be getting
That was a dumb question, wasn't it?
Yeah, nothing happens till somebody sells something.
It's kind of like getting into okay, fine. You know what else I'm thinking of, though? What I think of is from the show Billions. Have you seen the show Billions?
I have seen probably most of the first season.
Okay, so, it's a great show.
I'm familiar with the show.
I'm thinking of the psychiatrist on the show, and it's a little bit of what you do. Now, I know these people have individual therapists and so forth, but to get into their heads a little bit. I think it's
what I think he kind of does do most.
Yeah, he working with people.
See what they need, what makes them tick.
And if I could touch on that just real quick, and then we'll be back on task. But sometimes I'll be working with leaders, and we're focusing on the results that they're looking to achieve, et cetera, and we're going down that path. And then sometimes something that will come out, and I'll give you one that comes out with some regularity, might be anger management. They have some anger management issues. I'm not going to be amateur psychologist. And so if they're having issues with that, I'll strongly recommend that they see a professional who's going to be able to properly address that. It's something that we'll still discuss because it's a part of the workplace. But as far as that particular functionality where they need to get, let's say, a better handle on some of their anger management issues, I'm not going to help with that. They need another qualified professional who is an expert in handling that.
Okay. It's great, too, to know that, be that self-aware and not try to pawn yourself off as something. So that's really good. Okay. So we had to, believe it or not, wrap up segment 3. I know it goes too fast.
Oh, my God.
Guys, stay tuned. We're going to wrap this up in the 4th segment. I still have lots of questions. Don't go away. We'll be back. This segment of The Good Soul is brought to you by Aaron Fisnick, certified luxury home specialist with Ivester Jackson, Christie's International Real Estate. Erin's not only an amazing agent, but she's also an amazing friend to me with a diverse mix of happy Lake Norman clients, each with their very own unique circumstance and challenge. She's a one-of-a-kind boss lady who I endorse wholeheartedly. Erin can be reached at 704-728-5657 or reach out to me and I'll get you guys connected. Thank you, Aaron Fisnick, for adding your magic to all of your real estate transactions. And thank you guys for tuning into and supporting the show. We are eternally grateful. Mwah. Big kisses. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to segment 4 of The Good Soul, episode 38, Leadership Simplified. I want to sink our teeth right into this. Okay. So I as you said, in the prior segment, what do people take away from? I want to make sure that everyone is clear on the value and the importance of honing in on our leadership skills and what you offer. I want to get back again and repeat the 6 verticals. So let's, without further ado.
Oh, my goodness. Well,
and you can expand a little bit on each of them. So
let me put it this way, because think about our audience today. and in the future, as people will look at this, this video, etc. What I would challenge you all to do, so those of you watching this, is, what are 3 things that you're walking away with? Catalog those. Hopefully there's 20 things, and they'll have an exhaustive list, but really, selfishly through your lens, what are 3 things that are resonating with you from the discussion, from a question that Patti asked, whatever it might be. But what are those 3 things that you could weave into your strengths to raise the bar? How do we improve by expanding our strengths, not by focusing so much on our limitations. So what are 3 things that you enjoy from this program, from this experience today and other programs that you've delivered, and then seek to be very intentional about whatever that is and weave that into your strengths to improve and get better and better and better. And it's a similar philosophy to, for example, when I deliver a leadership development program. We have a one-day program that's coming up in the next few weeks, whatever. And during that one day, again, I'm hoping all the participants have a laundry list of things that they'd love to implement. But, we're adult learners, and we have 88% correlation between past behavior and future performance. It's difficult for us to, throw in lots of different changes or enhancements. So even though it's a full day together, I'll be challenging that group. What are the 3 things you really want to star and highlight? Be intentional about those, and then weave those into your modus operandi to get better and better and better.
Sure. Do you also work with, like, on that note, let's maybe turn the spotlight on me. Like if I came to you and said, Doug, I just want to work on not only my career as a yoga studio owner, but also as a podcaster, as a writer, and as a perhaps future politician someday. Yeah. Is that something that you offer, that you could sit down with somebody like me and help me kind of organize my strategies and where I want to focus?
Yeah. So you want to role play that?
Yeah, let's talk. I mean, whatever direction you want to go. Like,
and so you have 3 broad brush things in there. Yoga studio owner, the good soul, podcaster, future politician. And so I'd segment those. I'd say, well, let's unpack it, item by item. So we have 3 different items there. So let's focus in on the good soul first. Okay. Your yoga studio, your yoga family. And the first question that I'd ask you is, I'd say, well, educate me about your business model. Okay. And so then you would, I'd be interested in your verticals. You offer yoga, but you offer hot Pilates and different things like that. So you have different, revenue generating areas. You have a team, you have a staff. And so I'd want to learn more about your business model, because that's going to prompt other questions. And then your answers are going to help give me a better flavor of, how organized, or some people more on the disorganized side, what does that sound like? So that's the first thing that I'd say. I'd say, well, help me understand your business model. Okay. And sometimes that's different organizations' secret sauce. Our business model is very, very unique. And because of its uniqueness and diversification, I think that's been a reason why we've been around 27 years. Same thing with podcasts. I'd want to unpack that. And I'd say, well, help me understand, what is not just your model, but, what's your vision on where you want to take the podcast, the value that it delivers, what's your perceived value on what the audience receives. Okay. And then based on audience feedback, what are they receiving? Is that synced up, or is it different than you thought? Okay. I'll just stop there.
And how are we going to get there? Really an action plan? So I'll dial it back to the studio. So the classes are great. I mean, the overall mission is for people to leave here feeling better than when they got here, and their definition better. Sure. I mean, most people, as you know, we go to yoga, sad, depressed, addicted, injured. Very few people come running in the studio like, I'm ready for yoga. They somehow need to be healed. But from there,
I come running in ready for yoga.
Yeah, well, he does. Yeah, he by the PS. Yes, he's.
I do hot yoga,
He
or hot Pilates, or torch
hot bar. You do torch
almost
bar.
every day.
Yeah, you do. He's that was one of the things we connected on, and when we first met. But I want to improve our cycling program. I want to open a juice bar. I want to add a cold plunge. We're doing retreats now where we travel with 20 of our students to Mexico. I want to do.
And so the laundry list there would be a couple more items. And so one of the first things I'd have you do is go through an exercise. I'd say, Patti, you've listed those different things. And so just for my edification right now, as you think about implementing those, cycle program enhanced, juice bar, retreats, whatever, force rank those for me, which might be very, very difficult because you are a passionate person. And they're all.
I want them all now,
babies.
tomorrow, yeah.
And so, but what I would say is I would ask you to force rank those. There's only one number 1, one number 2, one number 3. And then once that's done, I'd ask you to power rank those from 1 to 100. 100 being, oh, we're doing this tomorrow. And 1 is, maybe I'm not as passionate about this.
Sure. Can I just intervene? And I don't know how you feel about this, but my father would have said, focus on what is going to generate the most income first, because all the other stuff is really easy when there's money in the bank. How does that resonate with you?
Well, that's very pragmatic. Yeah. I mean, I am a capitalist, and we have a capitalistic society. It is what has made America great. It's bettered the world. Yeah, sure. And so it's bettered the world. I would say your father was pretty wise man.
He was a smart man. Did you ever meet my dad?
Never did.
You never got to meet my father. So I think part of what gets me so excited about this, and is the same thing that gets me excited about teaching a yoga pose and seeing somebody nail their standing bow. And Doug knows what a standing bow is, a proper standing bow, is that let's not talk about balance. Every time you take a kiosk, go, my balance was off today. Everybody says that. But we are making the world a better place. And through a yoga pose, which I think is a very powerful position to be in on the podium for me, is for you. So you are improving the quality and efficiency of these companies, but you're also creating better wives and husbands and drivers and, pickleball players. And what an important role that you're playing in the world. And this is the purpose of the show, to get people to understand that the most, what you may consider an executive, more professional, to me has so much bigger of an effect on the world than just teaching people to play nice in the sandbox.
Thanks. And thanks so much for saying that. And the, I mentioned earlier, and I just want to highlight it again, the acid test referrals are easy for me. Cool people who are lifelong learners. So in other words, Patti, I'm working with people who get it and who are going to be engaged in the process.
Yes.
And because it's amazing what we can accomplish when you have that.
Yeah.
So when I work with different leaders in different organizations that have, those core qualities, we're able to really notch it up and take it to some interesting places. But it's because they have the openness and the engagement to get there. I mean, it's amazing what we can accomplish. So anyway, that's the core universe that I'm playing in all the time.
It's powerful stuff. Let's turn the spotlight. Let's keep the spotlight on you, because we had mentioned, of course, at the beginning, you had mentioned mom and pops as kind of your entree, but then also you had mentioned a couple Fortune 500 companies. How did you land that? I mean, that's really exciting. Yeah. Whoa. So, Amazon. I mean, does it get bigger than that?
So they are, and wonderful to work with. I enjoy the groups I work with them. So. Again, started out, and the first 7 years of business really lived and died on repeat business and referrals. Okay. And so that's, and I was in that space, mom and pop and small businesses and medium-sized businesses for roughly 7 years. And then I had a larger organization reach out, and they say, you know what, we have a team, they're in Dallas, and we think that, they're a 50-person team, they function a lot like a small business. We'd like you to go in there and kind of treat them as a small business and help them in a variety of different ways. So they engaged my services to do so, and great group, wonderful working with them, and they really knocked it out of the park. I mean, they made it happen. Mm-hmm. And so then they tapped me on the shoulder. They're like, we got a team in Chicago, about 73 people. Think you could work with them? And then it got interesting, just the scale of working with some larger organizations. Okay. I'm not shy about calling on people, so I would even cold call businesses. Sure. There are some Fortune 150 organizations I work with where I literally cold called a particular part of their organization and ended up working with them. So, I find myself, over the years and our team, we've worked with about 16 different Fortune 500 companies, and it's just been wonderful and enriching. We grow in the process. Right. And so anyway, that's just a quick story on how we sort of got from the mom and pops who we still work with. Right. To some larger organizations.
That's exciting. I'm going to tell a quick story, but when I first started the podcast, I have this list of everybody I'd like to interview, and one of which was Bruce Springsteen, who was kind of an acquaintance in New Jersey. Our kids went to the same school, and I emailed his manager or his PR person, and I got basically he laughed. He's like, I'm like, we'd love to have him on the show. He basically got hard no. And I was like, I'm not giving up on this. And I know if I saw him on the street, he would probably have done it back in the day because I knew him. Right. But I'm so sad to report that we have to wrap this up. But I really want to know, and I want everybody at home to know, how can we find you? And if anybody has any questions regarding not only your small business, but if you work for a large corporation, I think, Doug, you can make some great things happen for these people. So how do we find you?
Oh, gosh, thanks. Well, it's Doug Van Dyke, just like Dick Van Dyke, but it's Doug. You Google Doug Van Dyke. I'm all over page 1, page 2. Actually own the trademark.
I love it. Good.
Leadership Simplified is trademarked as well. I own that trademark. And so if anyone would Google Leadership Simplified, you would find us as
Comes
well.
right up.
Yeah.
Doug, thank you for being here today.
It's an honor.
It's an honor. I want to keep talking.
The coolest person on the planet.
Some would argue that, but
it's been
Doug,
super fun.
You're very sweet. Really, and we have Doug and his lovely wife and their 2 puppies together for the whole weekend. You're going to be here with us in Mooresville, so I'm very excited. So guys, thank you for tuning in. Please like, share, comment, subscribe, and keep coming back to The Good Soul. And we'll keep dishing out the good stuff to you guys. Again, thanks for being here. We love you. Peace and adios. Bye.